Hey guys, Tim and Donna Avery here with Visual Testament. So glad you guys are joining us today.
Hey guys.
Donna has a very special message that we will be talking about today, and it is
Integrity Matters.
Integrity Matters.
Yeah.
What a powerful subject.
Integrity
I know
matters.
that integrity does matter across the board on every aspect, every job, every ministry, everything. Family, marriage,
friends.
Got to have integrity. So anyway, before we get started, go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and join us for our Integrity Matters message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share, because a lot of times we think that integrity looks like, the things you do in private, but it also looks like those things that you do in public. Matter of fact, I think that a lot of times we forget that our integrity is on display everywhere we go. And there's a lot of people that are watching us.
Yeah.
And they're watching the things that we do. They're watching the things that we don't do.
Yep. I'm trying to think about the statement that people make that your character shines more in when you're whatever you're doing when no one's watching versus when somebody else is watching what you do. So your integrity shines more when no one's watching versus when they are watching, because you're not trying. That just tells you that you're not doing something for show. You're doing it because that's a part of your core. That's a part of who you are.
Right. So you're saying that who you are in private is obviously who you're going to be even more so in public.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
So that was my version, was a Tim James version of what she had just said.
I like it. But yeah, and but I think it's easy to ignore the fact that what we do in public matters.
Yeah.
And I think that it's easy to look at, even, for example, the disciples.
Yes.
We had 12 disciples, and,
Not us, Jesus.
Yeah, he did. Thank you.
The ones we're talking about
Correct.
in the Bible. In the Bible. There are 12 disciples.
Exactly, the Bible. So, and in that Bible, he had 12 disciples, and one wasn't all that integrous, Well, actually, several of them would have looked like they weren't the chosen ones according to the world standards. And I thought it was interesting, like, for example, in Luke 5, you read to me this morning, and it was talking about how Jesus taught from the boat. He taught from the boat.
Yep.
And I think that it's interesting when you think of, this could have been a message where he's actually teaching, back on the mountainside. Yep. He's taken them off where he's retreated and taken some time to just teach just the disciples. But he was teaching from the boat in public. And he was using the platform that they use as a job.
Yeah.
He was standing on top of their job. He was making sure he was making a spectacle of the very thing that they use day in and day out. And he was standing aboard their job. And I think that it's interesting to see how he obviously knew who Peter was before the foundation of the earth.
Yeah.
So to know that Peter was working the Sabbath, to know that Peter was willing to be maybe by some standards less integrous where the Sabbath was concerned, so that he could provide for his family and strive and do what he needs to do. Yeah,
because like in Luke, in that passage when it talks about, after Jesus was done with his message, and then he had that miracle of all those fish appearing, because he told them to let down your nets, and they ended up catching a big catch that day of fish and Peter's response to that was, Lord, get away from me. Or not get away from me, but like depart from me, for I'm an evil man. And so even Peter knew he was not integrous. And so I think a lot of these disciples, if not all of them, truth be told, probably all of them were not as fully integrous as we probably make them out to be in the very beginning of their journey with Jesus. So.
Right. Well, and I think it goes back to what the Lord was showing me about this is that. Peter was willing to do something that actually it went against the Jewish law to be able to fish during the Sabbath, but he was willing to do something if it meant taking care of his family. He had the heart. He had the heart right. He had the mindset right. He wanted to do the right thing to provide for his family. He just but it was going against Jewish law. And I think that it's interesting that in someone of that type of integrity, whatever scale of integrity it was, then Jesus saw him as the one that would be the rock upon which he would build the church.
Yeah, because he already knew what Peter would become at the end of it, because he sees the beginning from the end of the end.
He saw a diamond.
Mm-hmm. A diamond in the rough.
He saw a diamond in the rough. He saw a diamond in the rough with Matthew, the tax collector,
who was pretty much stealing from the Jews, cutting, making profit off of taxes being collected for the Roman people, and obviously hated by the other Jewish community.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So then
and like we could go on and on and on, and obviously, Paul. I mean, like, look how he chose Paul, who was he was murdering Christians left and right, and that's who he chose to write most of the New Testament.
Yes.
So I think when you look at integrity, it matters so much. But one of the things that I find that is interesting is that we see the time lapse of what it took to walk through the process of that sanctification, if you will, with like Peter or with Matthew, and in those processes of growth, that growth track that Jesus walked them on, and that they continued on even after Jesus ascended to heaven, then we see that, we've got to be really careful when we get on our own man-made growth track, because that growth track that's man-made, you can't grow so fast that your character can't sustain it.
Yeah, that's good. That'll preach.
So if you're sitting there doing something because the heart is actually, the mindset is to have an ambitious, which there's nothing wrong with ambition, unless
with envy too.
Yeah, unless ambition is getting you ahead of what is righteous. Oh, yeah. And the things that are integrous. And, if you're wanting to grow your business so fast that you got to mow down your mama, if you want to if you want to build a church so quick that you got to, do it the wrong way. If you want to be able to advance in a promotion at your job, but you got to take something from somebody else that they worked hard for, then it's really clearly a character issue. And that character that you are using to get it is the very character that you're going to have to sustain it. Yeah. And that is not going to go well, because at some point it is going to crack.
Well, I mean, you don't want to have a bad character to have to try to sustain to get that, because then if any level of increase you're trying to go beyond that, and you've got it, you've done it with a bad way of doing that, and it wasn't very integrous how you did it, the only way you're going to keep that is continuing to do the things that aren't integrous, and so you don't want to have to maintain that. No. But if you're doing the things that with a lot of integrity, it's easier to, because you're going to have a better heart and a better life knowing that I've done this all with integrity. Yeah. And so you look at different people's lifestyles from generation to generation. Somebody like Dr. Billy Graham, who had a very integrous life, and even after he died and passed away, his kids carried on his legacy. His wife died before he did, but his kids carried on, and his grandchildren carried on his legacy. And none of them had anything bad to say about him. So the way he dealt with things, and another one of our good friends too, Bishop 𝙑𝙑𝙑𝙑 kind of the same way. I mean, he was very an integrous person, and a lot of tremendous legacy, and so there's people like that will only speak of great things because that's the only thing that they can see, or the only thing that they witness, that these people have done very integrous things, and that's carried from legacy to legacy, and that's what you want to leave as in your generations leading forward in your legacy, is something that's very integrous. Yeah. So I know that there's that. Believe me, we know we've built businesses. We have built our leadership growth in ourselves. How many of you want to rush that process? Hello. Yeah. Takes time though.
We've seen where you can want to rush ahead, and I'm telling you, it doesn't work. I always liken it to that time when I was always told by my mom to clean the room, and when I was young. And just when I'd go to clean my room, I just, you throw everything under the bed, half the stuff in the closet, and you're like, hopefully she won't check. And doesn't
Guilty.
she always check? She always checks. She looks in the closet and then everything, the whole mountain falls out. And you're like, if you'd have just done it right the first time, you wouldn't have had to clean it twice.
That'll preach.
Twice. So character and integrity matter because now, she knows you didn't do what you were supposed to do correctly. You did it out of, like a disobedient heart.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you understand, just do it right. Just go ahead and do it the right way the first time. And it may seem like it's taking longer, but overall, it's going to be so worth it. Yes. We see so many people that are using other people's influence, for example, to get somewhere else faster. And we get it. We have been guilty of some of these very same things too. But what we found is that gets you nowhere. The power of
you
conviction.
end up losing more than gaining anything.
You do.
Yeah, you end up losing a lot more than gaining anything.
Yeah, and the power of conviction. Yes. The Lord lets you know. Did you do that the right way?
Yeah. And that, like you said, just like the analogy you used about cleaning your room, you had to do it twice. Yeah. That puts you even further back on gaining integrity, because integrity is very valuable. And so that's something that once you lose, it's hard to regain that, because now you're having to spend a lot more time to undo what you just said, and then to build that back up takes even that much harder to overcome. So you got to do it right.
So good, honey. So good. And I think that once we realize that process of doing things the right way, not having to step on Peter to get to Paul, then I think that you realize that in that process, that journey is actually what builds character.
Yes.
It's what refines you. It's what makes you the rock that the Lord builds his church upon. And so I just think of so many of the times where we tried to jump and skip and get there, cut a little curve and get a little quicker there.
Allow the process to happen, because things that come out of you would surprise you. The things that you can do after the result of going through the crushing and pressing and making a diamond out of you, you become somebody greater than you can ever expected that you would become. And so we continue to submit ourselves to leadership, growth, development, so that way we can continue to come out of us that we have yet to tap into. So, but doing it the right way, to do it with a heart of integrity, is the best way to do that and the most valuable way of doing that. And
I even liken it to one time just having a conversation with a friend that was like, we should really have already been to this point by at this time, like we should have already been there. We should have already seen this growth. And it's like, wait, how long have we been doing this? Couple years, 3 years. Well, tell me, would you tell your 2-year-old baby, why aren't you running yet? Of course not. They're just learning to walk. They're just taking their steps. They're just getting their stride. You don't come down on a baby when they're 2 years old and you're like, why aren't you running yet? How dare you not run yet? And being able to make sure that we're checking that process timeline with the Holy Spirit is really key, because he'll tell you, I'm not the one rushing this. I'm actually the one that hopes you stay in the fire the longest, because my fire refines and my fire makes sure that all the impurities are gone. Amen. And that all that's left is something that's as firm. He's an amazing blacksmith. Yes. He makes a firm foundation for you to be able to stand upon. So I hope this helps you guys. What do you think?
It helped me.
Well, good.
I know.
Because I love you.
Well, I love you.
All right, you guys. Make sure you share this with a friend. Should they subscribe?
Yes, you should definitely subscribe.
You should.
Yes, because you're our friends and we love you.
Yeah, we love you. Bye guys.